Do not adjust your screens. Yes, it is Thursday evening, 5:30 p.m., and it is time to get out of pocket. Now, we had this nice little video package for you, along with a full slate of sports talk. But unfortunately, there was some breaking news that happened over the last, 10, 15 minutes before we went on air, and now I'm scrambling. So now that video package would be A, outdated, and B, now we need to fit even more things into the show. But don't worry, we're still scrolling on the bottom. This breaking news: the Miami Marlins firing their manager. And by the way, you guys can be a part of the show as well. Okay. Mouthing off with Mike, who keeps hosting all these nightcaps. Shannon Smith from QuickHits was on the nightcap last night. He's commenting. Mouthing off with Mike is watching live, and he's all the way on the West Coast. Like, you guys, driving home from work, you can be a part of the show just like Mike was by commenting, and your comment gets flashed up on the screen right there. Now, I got like 3 different directions to look. This is kind of weird. This is the first time I'm ever doing this for Out of Pocket. Trying out some new equipment now. But this was pretty wild. We were just talking about this for the last couple minutes before we went live on air, being joined by Shannon Smith from Quick Hits and my good guy Chris. Chris is the baseball guru. We're coming up with a better nickname in group chats outside of him. So when we officially do give him that baseball nickname, he'll have no say in it whatsoever.
I can only imagine what you guys will come up with.
Just you wait. Aaron is also in the brainstorming process. So, Chris, I know we just got hit with this breaking news. What's your initial reaction to the Miami Marlins firing their manager midseason?
So, this is the Mariners, Scott Service, who was fired. So they're 500, 64 and 64, talented team. They've had a lot of breakout guys like Brian Wu's had a great season when he's been healthy. Castillo's been solid. The main issue, I think, is the team just feels like they need to move on. They have something there, and he's just not representing it properly. They're replacing him with a guy named Dan Wilson, who I don't know much about. I assume he's the bench coach or something, but Scott Service, it just doesn't seem like they really meshed well. And, they just acquired Rosarena and Houston caught up to them. So it doesn't surprise me, especially with how much expectations are put on with them, breaking the playoff streak and everything.
By the way, thank you for correcting me. I kept saying Marlins because Miami, I got the Miami Heat on my mind. It is the Seattle Mariners, by the way. That's what happens when you get breaking news, guys, and 10 minutes before the show, and you're already scrambling. Got an event at work I'll hop on immediately after the show for. So thank you. This is why he's the baseball guy. Again, better nickname incoming and pending. Shannon, this is hilarious because you were already wearing a Mariners jersey before this news broke. A, what do you think about this firing? And B, why a Mariners jersey of all jerseys? You're a Braves guy, right?
Oh, I'm a Braves guy, absolutely, but I'm a Ken Griffey Jr. guy first, and this is a Ken Griffey Jr. jersey.
Oh, okay.
So,
Respect.
Ken Griffey Jr. is one of the reasons why I love baseball so much. The time I watched him when I was small, he's one of my favorites of all time. I gotta say Ken Griffey Jr. than everybody else. So I love the kid. I wanted to be the kid when I was young. I wore the hat backwards at baseball practice, and my coach said no, stop it, and so had to do what coach said. But I was wearing this jersey because that was going to be, we were going to talk about this team later. So that's the reason why I was wearing it. But considering the fact that now the cat is out of the bag, they've been a big disappointment since the All-Star break. They had the lead in their division, 16 games ahead in spring, like around, before the All-Star break. After that, decimated. I mean, their pitching became very, very weak, even though they were considered a very tough pitching squad Their run support went down over the past few weeks. They've not been able to put runners at home, not be able to get runners RBIs in. They've left so many runners stranded. I think they're probably, since the All-Star break, they are third with runners in scoring position not brought in, not batted in. I believe that is. You might have to check that stat. But it's just been overall collapse. It was time to go. Scott Service was a OG player from when I was growing up. So I was hoping that Scott Service would have a little bit of success as a manager. It didn't pan out so well, so he's got to go.
Yeah, and losing 8 of your last 9 games, haven't done super well on offense. They've struggled. But I don't know, guys. Like, is it going to make that much of a difference firing your head coach or firing your manager now on August 22nd, a week before my birthday, by the way? We'll see what we can do for my birthday next Thursday. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to spend it on out of pocket. I'm not going to spend it in a hospital or anywhere else. I'll cover more of that on Saturday's different podcast. But Chris, are you a fan of the Mariners going ahead and firing Scott now, or could they have waited?
I mean, I think that they're trying to make a run back to some way salvage the division. They're 5 games back right now. And with how close all of the American League teams are, especially in the AL East with Baltimore and Boston, I really don't think that Seattle could get in for a wild card. I think the only way they're going to get in is by winning the division. And I think this is a Hail Mary attempt to get the division back, to get that playoff spot by default, essentially. So, I mean, if they were planning on doing it at the end of the year, you might as well do it now while you theoretically still have a chance, even though it's unlikely.
Yeah, I just don't know how likely that is. Scott's been with the Seattle Mariners since 2016 as a manager, and his final record was 668 to 624. That's about 52% win percentage. He's been above 500. Ever since 2021. It dipped this year. But man, I'm not going to lie. Like, you guys were talking about, hey, this is a disappointment. Unless there's like some major reason that's not being reported yet. Of course, this news broke about 20 minutes ago. I don't know. I think I would have written it out and seen how the entire season would have progressed, especially if it was. Shane, you're not agreeing with me.
Nope. Now, when you blow a 16-game lead and you had the division lead, somebody had to take the fall. Sadly, it had to be
scapegoat.
Yeah, it had to be.
Let's call it how it is.
Right.
Well, in the end, it's similar to the captain always going. Sorry.
Right. No.
Yeah, it's like the captain always going down with the ship. That's kind of the way it is. And there have been legendary managers who have been fired from their jobs or forced into retirement. So, and he's not. I won't call him legendary, obviously, but.
But somebody had to take the fall, and sadly, in this case, it had to be Scott Service. So it is what it is, and as the manager, you put the roster together, you get your troops ready, and when you blow 16 games, somebody's got to go.
I mean, you familiar with talking scapegoats? Last night, AEW Dynamite nightcap. We'll talk more about it on the day cap on Sunday at evening-ish. I mean, it depends how many more matches Tony Khan adds to that card. Let's be real here. So I was going to have, whenever breaking news happens, we have to pivot the show, right? So with juggling everything, I was like, okay, we'll start talking NFL. We'll transition to MLB. But now, since we already, are on the Major League Baseball comment, also, mouthing off with Mike, day cap Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon is just whenever Tony Khan just stops adding matches. Hopefully we get Claudio Okada on Sunday. I hope you like my accent that I just randomly threw up. We'll talk about NFL because there were some interesting trades, specifically by the Commanders, because I feel they're out of pocket for that. But wanted to go ahead and throw you guys this baseball question, if we can shake it up a little bit. Your most surprising and your most disappointing. Shannon, you already said you're most disappointed in the Mariners. We've had about 10 minutes of bashing them in, so we'll rest easy. They're making some adjustments and making some changes midseason. So if you've already laid out your most disappointing team, which wasn't mine, by the way, who's your most surprising team? You're like, whoa, this happened.
It's got to be the Kansas City Royals. They were at the butt end of their division last year, and this year they are looking like they're going to get into that wild card spot. Bobby Witt Jr. is having probably one of the best seasons right now in Major League Baseball. If it wasn't for the fact of who he was in the AL with, yeah, he would have probably won MVP. He probably won MVP this year. He's a heck of a baller. He's played very, very well with the additions of Seth Lugo, my cousin Will Smith, who is in Atlanta. They've had a good squad, and they've played consistently well, even though that AL Central is absolutely tough. Like they're tough, and so they still got to get past Cleveland, Milwaukee, all them, and so it's going to be tough for them to do, but yet and still they're going to get in that wild card. They've played very, very well. Kudos to them. Kudos to Bobby Witt Jr. Heck of a player. Great job.
Okay. That's an interesting take. Hitting with the quick hits. Chris, you didn't get a chance to share your most disappointing team, but who's your most disappointing and surprising?
So my most disappointing is going to have to be Toronto. Mainly because of their pitching rotation. They are currently 59-68, 15 games behind New York in arguably one of the hardest divisions. This pitching rotation on paper should be amazing. Barrios, Bassett, Gausman, and Alek Manoah, which is a whole other story. Rough start. Starters ERA is roughly 4.3, and the overall team's ERA is 4.5. So you're kind of seeing the damage of how bad their bullpen has been. Barrios has not been great. He's been kind of mediocre. Bassett took a step back. Gausman, who was once finished in the top 10 Cy Young the past 3 seasons, has not been doing great. And the big one, Alek Manoah, I was really big on him. Obviously, he went to WVU. He had a great start in 2021, finishing top 5 in Rookie of the Year voting, top 5 or top 10. And then his sophomore season was just incredible the year after, posting a 2.24 ERA, 3.35 whip, and striking out 180 people. We obviously know what happened with him. He kind of had some behavioral issues, got moved down in 2023 because how bad he was, refused to show up to AAA, and now he's been injured. So they are currently 26th in ERA, which is behind a rotation like the Nationals, which is significantly worse than the aforementioned rotation that I mentioned. So Toronto is 100% my most disappointing pick.
Okay. He's not a big fan of Toronto. Made the playoffs last year. For me, when it comes to the most disappointing, the most surprising team, disappointing. If you know me at all, my Major League Baseball team is the Texas Rangers. And I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this all day. Actually, I've been waiting on this for a few days because me and Chris were talking about like when he came on to Out of Pocket here the next time, like what we were going to talk about, and he threw this idea in the hat, and I'm like, you know what? It is about time because I am upset, right? I've had my avenues to where I can talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Me and my dad host a Cowboys podcast for Boom Broadcasting for Fans First Sports Network. I've had some segments. I got to talk about my Miami Heat earlier this spring with Out of Pocket. Guys, I have not had a chance to dive and dig into the Texas Rangers. Okay. you know that meme where it's like, hey, that deal with the devil, so to speak. Like, hey, your team can win a championship, but then you'll have 10 years of mediocrity. That's kind of how I feel right now. That's how Baltimore Ravens and Wayne Thomas felt after Joe Flacco won that Super Bowl. Like that's how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers felt when they went with that great defense back at the start of the century. Like that is how I feel. And of course, it's only one season with the Texas Rangers, but looking at the youth and the way they went from basically zero to hero in just a matter of a season or two, like the way Seager was back. We won the World Series when Adolis Garcia, like he was injured. Like he was injured for that most of that World Series, and we still won. So I was like, okay, we get Garcia back. Yeah, we have some like issues around in terms of like starting pitcher and in terms of health. But still no excuse because we had so much youth on this team that it looked like it was gelling. And I'm not going to throw out the term dynasty because for me to throw out the term dynasty, you need 2 championships or you need 2 really deep playoff runs at minimum. But Texas, I came into this season really high and it just faltered. And it was so disappointing. And maybe I have a different response if I'm not a Rangers fan. But it's not fun. The most surprising team, and I know my guy mouthing off with Mike is listening. He's commenting. He's a Yankees guy. We talked about them a couple days ago. Maybe he agrees with me. Maybe he doesn't. But I'm going to make him really mad right now, but I'm not out of pocket for this. There are similarities between the New York Yankees and the Dallas Cowboys. The biggest brand in their sport, but also how much talent are on both rosters. And it just seems like, especially the last few years, it hasn't clicked for the Yankees. Like, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, like the list can go on and on and on and on and on. And it's just like, okay, cool. Like, well, they didn't even make the playoffs last year. It's been tough, but now they're fighting for that number 1 spot that we talked about on Tuesday when Mouthing Off with Mike was on. That's mine. The most surprising Yankees, most disappointing Rangers. Shannon, I don't feel like I'm out of pocket for any of those.
Nah, I will say about the Rangers now, on the other hand, don't be too, I was going to say don't be too hard on them, but then Houston Astros are leading the division. So, I got a big.
I hate the Astros.
I despise Houston, the cheating scandal. I'm glad my Braves beat them in the World Series. That made me smile. The cheaters got what they deserved. So, I mean, I would say don't be so down on yourself, but the Houston Astros lead your division. So I'm like, all right, cool. I see what you mean. But I will say this, though. I think Chris has got to get off Toronto a little bit because Toronto plays in the gauntlet of a division.
Mm-hmm.
The bad part about it was the Boston Red Sox were the team that was picked to be the bottom team.
That was my pick for last place, was Boston.
The East. And look at them. They're third. They're third and could potentially fight for a wild card.
I think they can get one. I'm pretty confident they'll get one.
If Atlanta keeps taking a nosedive, then yeah. I mean, no, not Atlanta. I'm sorry, but it just depends on how Kansas City plays. Like Kansas City has had their up and downs as well too, and still the American League Central is a little bit of an iffy division. But New York fighting in the hardest division. I would have to say they're the hardest division in all of baseball.
Oh, but currently, yeah.
That's a gauntlet of a division there because, I mean, Tampa Bay is up and down. Then, Toronto did have their nosedive, and then the Red Sox came in there and took that 3rd spot. And then the Orioles, you got to be careful with them because the Orioles, well, too, they're the best hitting squad us outside of New York. Then that's going to be tough, man. I can't say don't be too hard on Toronto. Don't be too hard on them, but Mike, I can't help you with Texas, man. I'm sorry, dog.
And it sucks because I hate the Astros. Like,
Same.
I hate the Astros. So anytime they're leading the division, I'm a little salty. Also, can we give a shout out / interrogate Sean Lucas right here, watching Out Pocket. Appreciate you. I mean, Sean, mouth off with Mike, Shannon. I had Wayne Thomas on Drop the Mic yesterday. All 4 of those killed it with the nightcap. No surprise there. They'll kill it with the day cap. But Sean, I just want to help you out, my guy. I want to help you out. So with day cap, and then you said breakfast lunch edition. In America, we call that brunch. And brunch is delicious. And you should have had good brunch when you were over at the beach the same time I was, and we got a selfie together. So next time you're on Out Pocket, I'm going to use that picture for the video package. But at the same time, it's called brunch. Chris, what's your favorite brunch meal? Putting you on the spot right here.
I like Eggs Benedict and good mimosa. That's my brunch pick.
Dude, I could go for a mimosa right now. Honestly, I'm just selling for this glass of water. Shannon, while I take a water break, sponsored by Sean Lucas and Wrestling of Destiny podcast,
Sure.
what's your favorite brunch meal?
It hurts because I got 2 and it's hard to beat. I like breakfast tacos or chicken and waffles.
I'm not Out of Pocket for this, but people might hate me for this. Chicken and waffles, overrated.
What?
Yeah,
Get out.
dude, they're overrated. They're overrated.
Cut it.
Dude, it doesn't fit together. Like it just doesn't fit together.
Come on, man. It depends on what type of chicken that you get. If you get spicy chicken and you hit that syrup right and that syrup hits, come on, man. And the buttery waffle, man, come on now. Where's Aaron Schneider when I need him? I shouted out his team. Where's Aaron Schneider at right here? I guarantee you that man would agree with me right now. I guarantee it.
Nah, no shot. I'm excited for Schneider's cafe, but dude, like chicken doesn't go good with maple syrup. Waffles doesn't go good with ketchup. I mean, dude, Chris, like settle this. Like, come on.
So the ketchup part, I agree with. I do agree with Shannon that it varies on the type of chicken that you're using. Really, I've only had chicken waffles maybe once, so I can't give an honest opinion. But ketchup and waffle, I do have to agree with that part. But chicken and waffle, from what I've had, was good.
I'm not use ketchup. Absolutely not. If you use ketchup, forget about it. I see
some issues right there.
Now I get it. Okay, Mike, I get it. Somebody duped you into using ketchup and maple syrup, which was dumb on their part.
No, not the same time. Not at the same time. I do want to clarify that. I'm not dumb. I have put chocolate syrup in pinto beans before, but I'm not dumb enough to combine ketchup and maple syrup. Oh, what? It was bad. It was bad. Two of the worst punishments I've ever done to myself is several years back when I was like, hey, I want to do this like sports podcast, whatever. I would do it was called the Iron Jaw podcast because I had jaw surgery one time when I was younger. That's a whole other story. But I was like, yeah, I'll call it the Iron Jaw podcast, even though that doesn't say anything about what you talk about. I guess jaw talking, who knows? But I would do NFL predictions. And if I got under 50%, I would eat something disgusting. Ooh. And it was okay, I'll do pinto beans, but you know what? Maybe it tastes better with chocolate syrup. So it was one of these it looks bad, and then I'm like, maybe it'll be a trick or whatever. It was horrible. It was awful. My dad, I don't think, has forgiven me yet for wasting that bowl of pinto beans. Pinto beans are his favorite meal. Second worst punishment I've ever done to myself is 100% the Waffle House challenge last weekend.
I was waiting. We were sitting there texting you the whole time like he's going to blow up any minute.
The Waffle House challenge came from one of my fantasy football leagues, which was not fun. Which also, I do want to break some news about fantasy football here in just a couple minutes. But before we get way too off the tracks right here and I get in trouble for, going a little over today, we got some NFL trades that have happened. And I wanted to ask you guys which of these stood out to you because, Shannon, you and I have talked about the Panthers from time to time. They traded for a cornerback from Seattle, Michael Jackson. Not that Michael Jackson, but trade for him for Seattle. Carolina's had some major issues when it comes to the secondary, particularly with injuries. And then the Washington Commanders made a couple deals. First of all, trading within their division, giving Jahan Dotson away to the Philadelphia Eagles, probably making Philly's offense ranked one of the top NFL teams when you got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. I don't know why you trade away a rookie quarterback wide receiver. And then the Commanders, on top of that, trade for a kicker. I guess you open up a spot with Jahan Dotson, you go and trade a 7th round pick to the Browns for a kicker, Cade York. Kickers are people too. So there's a lot to digest. There's so little time before I get in trouble. Also, shout out to my coworker, Olivia Edwards, for the setup today. A big help on the setup for the podcast and cooperating with me. So shout out to her. Thank you for making my experience at Mass Head Co-working very, very pleasurable. All right. There's your cheap plug, Mick Foley style. Which of these trades stick out to you guys the most when it comes to this? Shan, I'll start with you, my guy.
It's got to be the trade. It's got to be the trade where they traded for the wide receiver, where Philadelphia traded for the wide receiver from Washington. That's putting them in company with my 49ers as one of the top offenses right now. I know we still got the Brandon Ayuk thing going on, which he will more than likely sign next week because the talks are getting good between him and my 49ers. I want to see your face when I tell you I told you so. But back to Philadelphia.
I can't wait till I've told you so, and he's a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Man, you see the way Russ is playing. You see the way Russ is playing right now. The way Russ is playing, Russ and Justin Fields playing right now. If that man go there, he will not eat at all. Good luck. But if he wants to go, good enough for him. You're gonna get paid and sit and watch us play in the playoffs. Good job there, baby. But it's got to be the Philadelphia trade where they traded for Dotson. Trading the man's receiver like that, Jaden Daniels is going to give him another reason. Might have a nosedive this year. He plays in a tough division. Philadelphia and Dallas in that division. You're going to trade away one of his weapons. Bad idea.
Bad idea. I don't think it's, ever useful trading within the division, especially if it's a player who will see the field. The Cowboys just traded with the Giants for Jordan Phillips. He might make the 53-man roster. If so, oh well. If not, oh well. But for the Commanders to trade to the Eagles, who already have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, their third option of Jahan Dotson, which Dotson was probably their second option behind Scary Terry. Yep. It doesn't make sense to make your already competition in the NFC East that much stronger. Chris, what trade stood out to you, my friend?
Yeah, the Dotson one was the same one as well. I mean, the Eagles have now built arguably the best wide receiver room and in the league by a mile with Brown and Devontae Smith and Dotson. And it confuses me because you basically cancel your two trades out because you use a 7th round pick to get Cade York, and then you give up a 7th round to a division rival, and it's not doing anything to help out Jaden Daniels' confidence. They have number 1 is Scary Terry, number 2 is can't remember his first name, Brown from UNC. First name starts the D. Regardless, so room's got a lot smaller, and really, I think he's better than that value. I think they could have got more. They should have did more is better than none. So I think Eagles won that by a mile.
And especially being super cheap with that too. Like, yeah, you basically traded Jahan Dotson to your rival for a kicker from another team. Like, I don't think no offense to kickers, Pat McAfee, I don't want you to get upset. I don't want you to send your people against
He's gonna be in Morgantown.
Pocket.
He's gonna be in Morgantown tomorrow.
Hey, that's right.
No way.
I think tomorrow.
Oh yeah, college game day.
Yeah.
Man.
That's why he's not going to be on Monday Night Raw. Thanks for
Sure.
ruining my day, Chris. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We miss you, Pat, and we want you back, Pat. We want you back. That begs a question. But before I break this news that we're doing a special program here in a couple minutes, what's the most you would give up for a kicker? And I mean like a kicker. Like I'm talking Brandon Aubrey. I'm talking Justin Tucker. What would you give up for a kicker? Because I've seen people like draft kickers in the third round, and I'm like, dude, you could make a much more significant impact. Chris, what's the most you give up for a kicker?
So for an elite one, like the ones that you mentioned, I would probably say like a mid round, because that's roughly where like the elite college kickers are going, like third to fifth round. So that's what I would be giving up. And for a not great one, I mean, heck, there's 134 FBS schools in general. Your options are kind of endless unless you're talking about like an Aubrey or Justin Tucker kind of guy. So mid round pick for elite, and nothing for a guy like Cade York, who has a 74% field goal percentage last year, by the way.
Which, why? Shannon's disappointed, man. Shan, I hope there's a segment on Quick Hits next week that's just clowning the Commanders for doing such a Cleveland Browns move.
How did you know? I mean, how did you know? Oh, it's coming. I mean, for real, because I'm getting the show as we go. I got to do a few things, do the intro, do the closing, and then do the meat of the show. So it's gonna be up in there because Lord have mercy. I saw that. I said, what? I mean, even if it was a 7th round pick, yeah. I mean, I get it, but look at the bright side. They're not the Raiders, and the Raiders drafted Sebastian Janikowski in the first round. I believe it was 2002. And Sebastian Janikowski was 6'2" and about 250 pounds from Florida State. Big kicker, big foot, strong foot, but not worth a first round pick, I must say. But I got to go with Chris on this one. I would probably say no more than a 6th round pick that I would pick for, that I would trade for a kicker. I wouldn't trade a kicker for a third. I think 3rd is generous. I would probably say 5th, and that's being generous. 5th round pick at the most. 5th round.
So I just want to do a social experiment on that Sebastian Jankowski draft right here. Is the year 2000, drafted him 17th overall. There's some notable names after him. Immediately following to the Jets, Chad Pennington. Immediately following Chad Pennington was Sean Alexander.
Woo!
Running back, went to Seattle. Some other notable names, Keith Bullock at the end of the first round. And then you're just looking like 3rd round, 4th round. You know, there's some names. The most wild part of this was the Raiders took Jankowski 1st round and then took Shane Leckler the 5th round. Like, that's the funniest part, is like, not only did you use your 1st round pick, but the same draft, you use a pick. And of course, everybody knows not that he was going 1st round in this draft, but it was the same draft of the GOAT, Tom Brady.
Yes, sir.
We probably just lost like 5 subscribers because I just said the truth.
So they just can't.
LA Knight did say it. Who got drafted first when Tom Brady got drafted? Nobody remembers.
We're called out of pocket for a reason.
Hey, none of my takes are out of pocket. That's all my guess usually. Ooh, do you guys know who was drafted 1st overall in that draft?
No, it wasn't Culpepper. No. That was 1990. Culpepper wasn't in the 1st round. No.
I would have never got this name.
I can't remember.
You want to take a stab?
I'm pretty sure I'm going to laugh.
Okay, so taken 5th overall in that draft was Jamal Lewis to the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, yeah.
Taken 3rd in that draft was Chris Samuels to the Washington Redskins.
Wow.
Redskins had back-to-back picks. Okay, number 3 was Chris Samuels. Number 2, you'll notice this name, LeVar Arrington.
Yep.
Okay. Bruh, this is the most wild thing. A defensive end from Penn State number 1 overall, to who other than the Cleveland Browns taking Courtney Brown. And you know what? They probably looked at that guy and they're like, you know what? I like his last name. He's a Brown for life.
I mean,
And let's just put in context. For life was like 4 years in Cleveland. I mean, yikes. 19 career sacks.
He went to Cleveland and died back then, man, because Cleveland was just coming back into the league at that time. So you went to Cleveland and died. You know, Tim Couch came the next year after that, and Lord knows what happened to him. He got destroyed because he went to Cleveland. I mean, it is what it is.
That's been the theme in Cleveland for years. But I'm overtime. Usually that doesn't matter, but I will get to work, get to my work event, but wanted to bring Out of Pocket to you in addition to bringing this news to you. Okay. So we release a Boom Broadcasting schedule for YouTube every Monday morning on our social medias. That will cover all the things. We had a podcast debut yesterday, The Lombardi Party, a Green Bay Packer exclusive podcast by Carson Williams himself. Thank you for supporting him. All the Carsonites ran wild. But this is always subject to change. And one thing that is changing is Saturday night, we are going to be doing a live stream. So who likes fantasy football? I know I do. And because I like fantasy football, we are bringing this to you. We had a fantasy football league with people you have seen on Out of Pocket before. And it was good. It was great. You know, we had a good time. And now we're wanting to do bigger and better things. And so now that we have the freedom, the flexibility in our schedules to do this, we're going to do this. Okay? Saturday night. This Saturday, 2 days. Okay? It's 6:07 right now. So 49 hours from now. You like that, Shannon? You like that? Okay. 49 hours from now, 7 o'clock, Saturday, August 24th, we are going to be doing a live stream fantasy football draft. And we have 12 teams. It is not going to be a snake. It's not going to be like, oh, okay, typical. It's going to be an auction draft. And money is on the line. So people are going to bring their A game. And just so you know, I don't usually lose my fantasy football leagues. And I'm not losing this one. So I just conned 11 people into giving me their money. But it's going to be awesome because you guys get to experience it on Saturday night. How fantastic is that? Saturday, August 24th, here, live streaming on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. We're going to give each other a hard time. They're going to, think they have a really good draft, and then they're going to cry in a few weeks. We might even live stream that as well. But Boom Broadcasting, first time ever, a live stream auction fantasy football draft, and we want you on this ride with us. But it's been super awesome with you guys. Shout out Chris. Shout out Shannon. It's been incredible. Out of Pocket. Shannon was on the nightcap last night from Dynamite. You want to go rewatch that. He also had QuickHits yesterday. He might take you to school. Just fair warning. But, I've never attended in better school other than App State Roll Nears. Out of Pocket will be back tomorrow, Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, and will be our final Out of Pocket before the live stream fantasy football auction draft. But for myself, Michael Davis, and this new camera setup that we tested out today, who knows how many times we'll use this, for my partner in crime, Shannon Smith, podcast_Smitty. For my guy, Chris, shout out to Aaron Schneider for connecting us. Our baseball insert nickname here. This has been Out of Pocket on Boom Broadcasting, and we will see you back here tomorrow at 5:30.